Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Loud Love Podcast. I'm your host, Vinny Marone. We are on episode 10. In this episode, I get to speak with and tell stories with a good friend of mine, someone who I admire so very greatly, Mr. Will West. He's the frontman of the Baltimore-based Skatepunk band Paperback Tragedy. He's also a solo artist now. He just recently released his first solo record called Dragon. You can find Dragon as well as all of Paperback Tragedy's releases anywhere you stream music. Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, Deezer, Bandcamp, all of those fun spots. And it was a really great conversation to have because I was introduced to Will really as a fan. I was a huge fanboy of Paperback Tragedy. I mean, look at this, by the way. See this little thing right here? Yeah. That's someone who's out of their bed. It's not supposed to be out of their bed. They're sneaking around. They think they can get away with it. Hence, one of the reasons why this podcast is so delayed in being released is because, this is the only time I have to do this stuff. It's late at night. It's 25 minutes to 11 on a Friday night. I'm in the middle of a 9-day work week, and this is the time that I have to do voiceovers and introductions and producing and stuff like that. So anyway, back to Will. That's the most important part, and Paperback Tragedy is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, punk band. So that's how I started my relationship with Will, and we just got to know one another, and it's one of those things where we just are very like-minded. We think and feel from the same general area when it comes to storytelling and when it comes to writing music. And that was what the foundation of our conversation was about here in episode 10. So I'm really excited to go over that. And so what else has been going on? It's been a while since we've caught up. Well, as you can see here, I'm speaking into this gem of a microphone. It's a Shure Super 55 microphone. It's very fancy looking. It looks kind of retro. It's not the typical microphone that I use for podcasts. That would actually be this one here. If you're watching on video, you can see my podcast microphone. I'm not using that right now. One of the reasons is my podcast microphone, it plugs in weirdly. It's got a USB input, and right now I'm just in the middle of a bunch of recording. And truth be told, it's a bit of a bear. I have kind of a weird wonky setup. It's kind of pieced together MacGyver style, with old equipment and newer equipment, and I say newer, but really it's not so new. So I'm just I'm using this mic to talk with you today. Hopefully it sounds good. So with all that, I hope that you enjoy this episode with Will, and I'll catch you on the other side.
All right, now I think I got it all figured out.
Beautiful. So what the fuck is up, sir?
What's going on? Did we start? Have we officially started yet?
Yeah, this is, it's a loose start. Typically the conversation just, you get popped right in there.
I haven't listened to one yet. Do you have a theme song?
I do. I have a theme song. It's
nice.
I didn't mean for it to be the theme song. It's a tune that I wrote a really long time ago, like probably back in 08-ish. And it's called Hot Mess. Pete Cunningham, who was playing live with me for a while, he just did this really awesome little jazzy, groovy bass line. And I was like, man, this would be a really great kind of background sort of podcasty deal. And I've been using it since.
I did an intro for a podcast once. Somebody asked me to do one. And they wanted it to be a cross between they gave me a Dave Matthews Band song that I've never heard before and something else completely random. And I had to come up with something. So I came up with a same thing, like a jazzy kind of thing. I feel like that's like podcast music.
Yeah. I also did
jazzy stuff.
I had a podcast that I was trying to do, which I'm almost trying to marry the two ideas together where, you take like these people from the music scene and then we talk about just like really weird shit. So I was trying to do like, aliens and true crime and cryptids and stuff like that. So that was a really fun theme song to write. It was almost like a wacky kind of X-Files type thing, Oh,
that's cool. Yeah.
So my format so far has been, if I have somebody on for the first time, I ask them some, regular questions and stuff like that. And I was like, man, what do I want to talk to Will about? Because there's like a gajillion things I want to pick your brain about. But I feel like I'm such a big fan of your music and of your band that, like, if I were a fan and I just happened to come across Paperback Tragedy or your solo stuff, I would want to buy the magazines. I would want to go online and read through all of the backstory, and I like genuinely, wholeheartedly want to know, like, what drives your musical passion? Like, what makes you Will motherfucking West?
Well, I don't know what makes me me, but I do know as far as the music goes, it's something that's always been a part of me, and I could never, I could never leave it, and it could never leave me. We're kind of joined at the hip, and it's just all I've ever known ever since I was, I guess, 14 or 15 years old. So, and yeah, it's just, I don't know what I would do without it. In fact, like, I've gone through lulls over my entire music career of like the Paperback took a break for a while, and then I started doing this thing called Clock Breaker, and then that started to kind of run its course and to where we weren't getting together anymore, and I wasn't having when I don't have enough music, it affects me. It affects me mentally. My wife will tell me, you just don't seem yourself. You need to get out and play. You need to whatever. So yeah, like being totally immersed in music at least for half of the week is just it's part of my day to day. It's just I don't know what I do without it. So it's just part of me. It's a huge part of me.
I feel that 100%. So do you come from a musical family? I know you said like since you were 14 or 15, but like do you have any like influences like from a family member or something like that where they were into music, or is this something that literally just hit you as you were coming into your formative years?
So yeah, my grandfather, he used to have the stage name Tennessee Jack.
That's
And it was
that's
funny
badass.
when we ran into each other at Bar 13 a few weeks ago, and you were wearing your kitty cat shirt that had the kitty titties.
Yes.
We that was something he would totally wear back in his days of just and he never really made like a big name for himself or anything. I mean, he was pretty popular at the American Legion, but like but he had this old acoustic guitar, which I have now, and he would keep it underneath my grandmother in his bed. And as a kid, as a 9 years old, they raised me. I grew up with them.
Okay.
And I would sneak upstairs and I would go under the bed and I would open up that guitar case and I would just pluck the strings. And I remember teaching myself how to play taps. Bum, 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 E, E, A. And like right there is when it started. And I was like, 8 or 9 years old, but like I wanted to learn how to play that guitar really bad. And they still looked at me like I was a little kid and I was going to break it or damage it. He only had one, so I totally understood. But I guess when I was like 13 years old or 14 years old, I started to get into like rock music and Green Day, and I think Dookie had just came out, and Nirvana was loud and all over the place, and I was really into all that, and I wanted to play an electric guitar. I've seen them, I've just never got to play one. So my pop bought it for me for my birthday, and we got it from a pawn shop, and it was a candy apple red guitar made by a company called Phantom. And it was, it was probably like $150 or something, which was a lot of money for us.
Oh,
So
sure. Yeah.
yeah. So when we got that, and then I got I got an amp to go with it. And as soon as I plugged it in, I've played guitar ever since.
That was it. Yeah. That's cool that you have
That was it.
that connection with your pop. I have a very distinct connection with my grandfather as well. They didn't necessarily raise me, my grandparents, but they lived with us. My parents, they worked tirelessly. I mean, like they were just constantly working overtime, 2 jobs, 3 jobs. So my grandparents were there kind of like by de facto raising me. Now, he didn't have a guitar. He didn't own one. But when I got my first guitar, he used to play when he was younger. So he picked me up, and you mentioned the song taps, like, the famously played on the trumpet, but like my grandfather used to actually tap the frets of the guitar and play this like it would just like stick to the calluses of his fingers. And it would be like an almost like a ragtime kind of sound, like ding 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 ding. You know, like it was
Yeah.
so cool. And I remember just being fascinated by that. And that's kind of like the start of my musical brain started like, really going. And yeah, same deal, man. Green Day. I was never a really big Nirvana fan, but I love like Aerosmith. They were huge for me and like stuff like that. So now you're a multi-instrumentalist. Like right now you're playing guitar in Paperback Tragedy, you're playing drums in Dead End Lane. Did you teach yourself all of these different things? How did that happen?
Well, 100% self-taught for the most part. So for my pop, I would always tell him, teach me a couple of chords or whatever. And he tried to teach me the G chord and the C chord and the A chord, and they were just really, really tough to like get down. And then my buddy who lived up the street introduced me to the power chord on the guitar. And learning that, I was like, oh, wow, I can play all of these Nirvana songs. I can play all these Green Day songs.
Yep.
Like, this is like, my mind was like blown. And that really took me from just like a casual pick my guitar up once a week to like an everyday player, because all the stuff I was hearing on the radio, I could play that. I could mimic a lot of that. So I would be getting the tab books and stuff like that. As far as the drums go, it started in elementary school. I wanted to be in the instrumental band we had in third grade, and I wanted to play drums. And I thought I was going to get to play a full set of drums, but it was basically percussion to where we had, I think, 2 or 3 snare drum players. We learned the traditional grip, and we had one big bass drum player, and then like a bunch of other kids would have one would have a cymbal, and one would have a maraca, one would have a tambourine kind of thing. So I did that for like 2 or 3 years, and just like reading the drum music and stuff, just simple stuff, quarter notes and half notes and stuff like that, and rests. But that's kind of where it started, on the single snare drum and then the bass drum. And I said, I want a full set. And there again, my grandparents spoiling me for Christmas one year got me a set of drums, and it was around that same age, 13 or 14. And I grew up in a small row house and in South Baltimore, and there was like all these row houses next to us. And, we were the old school South Baltimore, where you didn't have to be related to your neighbor to call them your aunt. Right. So I had this elderly woman that lived next door to me. She was my Aunt Bernie. And every time I'd play the drums and I'd stop playing, she'd be so pissed off, and I'd hear her banging on the wall, boom, 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 boom. It was like, that's awesome. That's how I knew that, like, I was like, screwing up. I had to stop playing for, okay. My grandma yelled, give Aunt Bernie a break. Okay. And we eventually put them in the basement. But yeah, I've always like kind of ping pong back and forth playing guitar and drums, because I love them both. They're both like a huge form of expression for me to like be able to kind of get it out,
Yeah, that's awesome. Ever since I discovered you guys, I discovered you through our mutual bud, Bree Myers, through Allegedly Records, who actually has done some voiceover work on my earlier podcast, when it was like a kind of like a different, it was more like a song breakdown format. Now I'm just, I'm talking to people, which is different. But I'll never forget the first time I heard your guys' music. Just being someone who really holds the art of songwriting so dear. I strive all the time to be a decent songwriter, and we're our own worst critics and all of that. But just hearing the way that you write songs, and the way that like you write songs with your band members and stuff like that, it's so spot on. And I remember saying to you, like maybe a week or so ago, I was messaging you on Facebook, and I was saying, like, I think your time to be that naturally humble guy needs to like go by the wayside, and you have to embrace your expertise in this, because you could teach so many people how to do this from the heart. And I think that would be so valuable to the scene. Are you influenced by certain things? Does it just naturally come out? Like, what happens? Give me a little bit of the secret sauce recipe.
I totally agree with you too. Like I have so much respect for the song, and I feel like the song is going to tell you what it wants to be. You're just a vessel to like convey that with whatever instrument you're using. I think the key for me is I never try to force that song into something it's not going to be. That's why I have a solo album, because songs come out and they want to be what they want to be, and that doesn't necessarily fit the genre of the band that I'm in, So instead of trying to morph that and make some of that Paperback Tragedy songs, I just let it be what it was. And it just, it lived on my hard drive for a while. And then I said, I should probably release it. But I'd definitely be interested into like, helping other people write and structure songs and stuff like that. But really, I mean, most of the stuff that I write, it does come from deep inside. A lot of it I've lived. It's just sometimes a lot of it's disguised in metaphor, but most of it I live what I write for the most part. Every now and then it'll be a little bit of fiction here and there, but most of it comes from right in your chest.
Yeah, man.
It comes from the heart. And as far as finding melodies goes, you can tell a story with lyrics, but I think you can sometimes words can't describe what a melody can. And I truly believe that. And when you got melody and lyrics playing hand in hand, I mean, there's a beautiful like symphony to be made with that, I think. And that's what I strive for in every song. And I put my heart into that, like I don't, like my wife laughs at me sometimes because I always do too much. Like we made these Easter bunny hands one day for Easter, and we like cut out our hands and whatever. But I made like mine were way over the top. I had whiskers and like mine looked like real bunny rabbits. And she was like, "You do too goddamn much." But I mean, it's like just some things I just don't half-ass, and music is one of them. I will write, rewrite, throw it away, scrap it, rewrite it again, and until it's perfect. I don't put out anything that I'm not super proud of,
Your work shows it, man. It's like you mentioned how like you write you write life, like you write from the heart. And I think like the best writers, whether they're lyricists or even, if they're a literary author or whatever, in order to have that genuine connection with the reader or the listener, it has to come from a genuine place, right? So, and I think that that's something that really shines through all of your stuff. And you say the way that like your melodies and your lyrics kind of do a dance together and they tell a story in and of itself. For people who have never heard your stuff, which I'm hoping that, we're reaching people who haven't heard your stuff and they can discover your music. But even the ones who have, like, really dive deep into your catalog, hearing the way sometimes that you sing a happy melody but have like these melancholic lyrics. Even some of your lyrics, you talk about helping people to cope, helping people to feel better about life and to face the hardships of life. I feel like that happens when you're telling those harder stories with those, dare I say, like darker lyrics. Your melodies almost help them stand up so that they're palatable enough to listen and get caught in the ear. And then you can listen to the words and have them really, resonate with you. So it sounds like I'm fluffing your fluffer nutter here, but
no, I love it. I mean, honestly, like I said it before, like you have been a breath of fresh air because most people don't really listen like that. Most people just kind of whatever. But you're a real one. You get it. You know what I mean? And like not a lot of people do get it, but you get it. You're no slouch neither in the writing department. Your stuff too.
Thanks, man.
But yeah, it's I do write a lot of sad songs, and I think that's why I'm happy all the time because maybe deep down inside I'm sad, a lot, and it's my way of getting it out,
Yeah, it's
and
your way of expression.
And because of that, I'm able to be happy-go-lucky, at least on the surface, and that's how I cope, that's what I need.
So you're talking about the happy-go-lucky nature of doing what we do, and we really are lucky to be able to get up on that stage and put ourselves out there and to play. So when did you start getting to do that? Like, what was the beginning for you getting up on stage and having a band behind you and doing your thing?
The very first time, I guess when it was people I didn't know, was in ninth grade. Our biotechnology department was having a talent show. And at the time, we were a two-man band. It was me and my best friend who lived across the street, Min. He played drums. We had a few original songs that I wrote. This is the very early beginning days. And we auditioned for the talent show. And we literally lugged our drums into the school. And I had my little amplifier. And I think I had a stereo system with like one of those old school stereo systems that took a microphone.
Yes.
And we used that as the PA. And I remember playing our song for who was our teacher, Miss Green at the time, and just kind of seeing her face kind of drop, like when we played, and it made me feel really good. Well, then it was playing to the biotechnology department at the actual talent show, which probably had about 100 people there, And when they heard we were the only like band that actually had like a drummer and a drum kit. A lot of so there was a couple people who did poems, a couple people who kind of did karaoke and a cappella. And when those drums kicked in and we were like the full band and people started going crazy, and this is like inner city Southern high school, like,
Right.
it was a feeling that I'll never forget. That was like the first big step into like performing for people. So that was my first time. And it was a really, really good experience.
And I think there's so much to be said. And I'm not knocking any of the other types of music that you might not use a live band or, like a lot of like, there's really great DJs and you can go to a show and that's hosted by a DJ and you can have a great time. But there's really something to be said about having a live band up there, no matter what the genre is, and having that force, that synergy that's created between the members up on that stage and the energy that it creates. And then it's like, you share it. It's like back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys in Paperback Tragedy totally get that. I've had the pleasure and the privilege of seeing you a few times. One of the times was in your own backyard. I've never been to the sidebar, but it's part of that song. It's part of your song from
Yeah.
from Thrash. But yeah, man. So, dude, I want to ask you like a gajillion questions, but I'm
we got all the time in the world, and we can do part two in another couple of weeks if you want.
Yeah, we'll definitely do as many of these as you want. But I wanted to ask about Paperback Tragedy itself. So you guys seem like you're like four brothers. You're up there. You're doing the thing. You're writing music together. How did you guys get together? Pretend I've never heard about you guys. Tell me a little bit about Paperback Tragedy.
Okay, well, I guess it all starts in the year 2000. So my buddy Min that I told you about, that we had a little band. We eventually got a bass player named Chris, and we were calling ourselves Route One. And we did that from like 1997 up until like 2000. They both enlisted in the Marines and went to go fight the good fight. And I was bandless. I didn't have anybody. So Frog is an old friend from kindergarten, our bass player. I've known him my whole life. I've known him longer than I've known just about anyone. And so I told him, I was like, Frog, I need a band. I need you to play bass. I don't know how to play bass. I said, I don't care. I need you to play bass, and we need to find a drummer. I need to play music. I want to take the next step, because they were going to be gone at least 4 years in the Marines. So we found another guy at our high school that played drums. His name was Lonnie. So we started a band called Brat. And remind me, I gotta let you hear some Brat songs. I think you'd be floored,
dude. I would love to hear old stuff like that.
It's basically early Paperback Tragedy in the Sandbox days, I guess you could say. Well, Lonnie kind of ran his course with the band for about a year. And so me and Frog needed another drummer. So we got on America Online and did a profile search for drummers. And we found a guy whose influences included like Nirvana, Stone Temple Pilots, just a straight up like Seattle kid. And he was from Washington State, ironically, and like and he lived in Canada for a little bit and stuff like that. But that's how we met our Moose Clay. I just sent him a random message. I said, hey, would you come audition? He said, yeah. I said, we like to drink beer. What's your favorite beer? And at the time he said Ice House. And when he came over to practice, I had a 6-pack of Ice House sitting on his drum stool. And he was in the band ever since, So we did it for it was me, Frog, and Clay together as Brat for a couple years. And then we decided we wanted to expand and bring in a fourth guitar player. So we put an ad up on it was a website called BaltimoreBands.com. And there was a classified section for like members. And we put an ad up there, and we put, our influence include, NoFX, Lagwagon, Descendants, stuff like that. And that's when Sea Lunch answered and was like, hey, I'll come audition. But we didn't audition anyone else. It was just, he came and then he got the gig. We decided to change the name from Brat because we were getting, I think a lot of people, when they heard that name, they were thinking young kids or like girls or like girl pop or something like that. So we had a song called Paperback Tragedy, and we decided to go with that as our band name. That's what we did. And we put out me, Frog, and Clay put out a Brat album called Fame and Flies. That was like the big album we put out that had like, we went to New York to record it at Pi Studio where the Beastie Boys recorded and Cyndi Lauper. That had 3 songs on it that were mixed and mastered, and then another 4 songs on it that just kind of had rough mixes because we couldn't afford it to get the whole thing mixed and mastered.
Sorry, we're out of money, guys.
Yeah, we were South Baltimore city dirt. We didn't have anything. So we put that album out, and then we got together with Paperback Tragedy, and we put out an album called To Make a Short Story Long. And it was kind of like our first attempt as Paperback Tragedy to put together an album, and we weren't real happy with the way it turned out. Like, you know, a lot of it was on us. Just, we didn't have our rhythm yet of...
Yeah, like your trademark sound, or, you know, like the
right,
way...
our feng shui, I guess you could say. You know? But we worked with, 2 years after that, in 2007, we worked with a guy named Rich Feinstein from Kona Silence Recording Studios. And he's just a local guy. He was in a band called Number. And he was in the Hamden area. And we worked with him on Baba Goosh. And that album, to me, is probably the best album we've ever done. One of the best albums we've ever done. That album kind of catapulted us a little bit back in the mid 2000s. We were selling 20 and 30 copies a clip to Japan. They were buying them off a CD Baby, and we couldn't restock them fast enough. And
that's awesome.
If we had the technology that we have now, then, you know, the TikTok and the Instagram and Facebook and even MySpace wasn't even really a thing then, that album would have probably done some crazy stuff for us right now. But it was probably around like 2009 or whatever. We all kind of took a break, and it was mostly my fault. I kind of wanted to go in a different direction and play with some different people. And so we shelved Paperback Tragedy. Well, we had my buddy Adam from Stupid Cow and Biff. He took over on bass, and then we started splitting duties between us. And then Keith Smith came on his drums, and it wasn't, and when Craig left, so it wasn't really a Paperback Tragedy anymore. We carried the name for a year or two, and then we decided to be called Clockbreaker, which was a Paperback Tragedy song.
Okay.
carrying on the routine of like, so we did that for a couple of years. We put out an album, and it was a lot of fun, and it just kind of ran its course. I think Keith left the band. We got a different drummer, and it was right around like 2018, 2019, just before the pandemic. I hit the guys back up. I said, hey, you guys want to get back together again, kind of thing. And we all got back together, and we were like pedal to the metal. So we wrote Baba Touche, which was going to be the follow-up to, the follow-up from the album 15 years beforehand. We got those songs all written. We started tracking drums, and then COVID shut down everything. So then we learned how to track guitars remotely. So we figured out how to finish the album despite everything being completely shut down. So then we put out Baba Touche, and then we put out a Christmas album later that year, Baba Humbug. And then the following year we did Threesh, and the following year after that we did 8. And this past year we did nothing. But we're gearing up for something big, hopefully in 2025. But that's basically the long history of Paperback Tragedy from the beginning to the end. Thank you if you're still listening to all that.
No, I'm eating it up. It's awesome. I do have to like put a little asterisk. You said that Moose has been your drummer for Paperback Tragedy the whole time, except for a very short stint when Lafayette
was. A very short stint.
Very short stint.
Lafayette. Like Clay, we kicked Clay out of the band in 2024 in December. Got Lafayette. He no-called, no-showed us, and luckily Moose bailed us out, so we're all good now.
I saw him. He was hanging on the street in York, and I guess he just never made it to the venue. That Lafayette.
Yeah, he never got an Uber. I called him an Uber and everything. That art you made was awesome too. I'm going to share that. It's been in my. You know how you got to kind of stagger your posts.
Yes,
but yeah, I'm posting that one tonight.
Awesome.
Post it tonight.
I had to have a little fun. I couldn't help myself. That show, getting to see you guys just and not having any baggage of having to perform or anything like that, and just kind of showing up and seeing you guys and seeing, oh my God, like Coffee with Lions was there. Italian Blood was incredible.
Everybody was good. It was like one of those lineups where top to bottom, it's just like everyone just gets up there and just slays, and it's just you're just so happy, your heart's so full. You get like I get. I know you do. two peas in a pod where like you walk out there just smiling, happy as hell. And I know that feeling. Like when we go to shows, me and Clay, we try to make it out to any weekends we're not playing. Me and Clay always at least try to go make a show. I love that feeling too of just getting there, being there with your friends, and not having to perform, not having to worry about my voice, not have to worry about drinking too much. Just go have a good time and just like totally immerse yourself in the scene. It's just such a great feeling.
Yeah, no, it was awesome, man. I have to get you to commit to another one of these very soon because, like, I just feel like we could talk about a million things. But I do want to get to. I put something together for you. Let me see. I got to get my co-host out. It's this bell here. So I've been doing like this rapid fire round with like random questions to cap off the show. But I put something special together for you because you and I share another thing in common. We are both Ghostheads. There you go. Yeah, bring it out, man. There's your proton pack right there.
I have a proton pack. I got a PK meter. Like
yeah. My proton pack also. There's mine.
Nice. That's the HasLab pack.
That's the HasLab pack. Yes. Mine's
in the basement. Mine's down. I'm up in my office. This is where this is my kind of like my little studio.
Nice.
But yeah, that's actually a Spirit Halloween pack. That's the one that the wife wears. I always force her to dress up as a Ghostbuster with me every year.
That is awesome. Yeah, dude.
The kids have a choice. They can
be
whatever they want. Yeah, the kids have a choice. They can be whatever they want. She has no choice. She's got to be a Ghostbuster.
Well, I mean, if you got to choose one thing to be year in and year out, it's Ghostbusters because you can even swap out the patch. You can be a different Ghostbuster every year. All right, so I've got Ghostbusters trivia for you. All right.
Okay.
So we're gonna do some Ghostbusters trivia to cap off the show. And okay, are you ready for the Ghostbusters trivia? Okay.
Is this timed? Like,
no, it's not like necessarily timed, but you know, if we're getting like, Zoom's telling me I got like 5.5 minutes left, so hopefully we can get through it all then.
Okay.
All right, so here we go. What was the original title for Ghostbusters?
Was it Ghost Smashers?
Yes, Ghost Smashers. And then they had that whole thing when they chose Ghostbusters. They had that that other company that owned the name. They had to like license it out and all that stuff. But yeah, Ghost Smashers.
Same thing with the cartoon. They had to be the real Ghostbusters for the cartoon.
Yep. All right. Question number 2.
That's scary.
All right, here we go. Dan Aykroyd originally wrote the character of Peter Venkman for this late comedic icon.
Was it the Belushi?
Yes, John Belushi.
John Belushi. Yep.
As a matter of fact, unfortunately, that Mr. Aykroyd got the call about his best bud, John Belushi, that he had passed away as he was writing a line for him in the Ghostbusters script. Wow. So it's a crazy thing. But yeah, as a matter of fact, he's not the only like character that was supposed to go to somebody else. But maybe we'll do that for our next episode. I'll put together another one. All right, so. The role of Dana Barrett's quirky accountant neighbor was famously portrayed by legendary comedian Rick Moranis. Before Moranis took the role, this beloved comic turned it down after suggesting that Louis Tully speak with a German accent and own a pack of German Shepherds.
John Candy.
John Candy. You're on a roll, dude. You're on a roll.
Whew. This is scary.
Here we go. While Peter was performing ESP ability tests with his students as his subjects, he used this form of corporal punishment to inflict, quote, negative reinforcement on incorrect answers.
Electroshock therapy. Electroshock. He zapped them.
And they'll tell you what the effect is. It's pissing them off. All right, here's a good one. Slimer was not the original name of everyone's favorite translucent green full torso vaporous apparition, as audiences were the one who donned him with that name. What was Slimer's original name?
You know, because Craig is going to listen to this, C-Lunch, my guitar player. Erin from Dead End Lane drew me a picture once, and she put like a Ghostbuster logo on it. It was absolutely amazing. She painted me this beautiful masterpiece. But not to be outdone, Craig sketched me together a drawing of me, him, and Slimer, and he calls Slimer Flubber. I don't know the
Flubber.
answer. I don't know the answer to this question, so I'm going to go with flubber
Flubber. All
for
right.
sea
Well,
lunch.
just for sea lunch, we'll say flubber is a great guess. The answer is onion head, but sea
Onion
lunch
head. I
gets a
knew
ring
that.
for flubber.
Yep.
We got to give him a ring for that. All right, what do
Yeah.
we got left? We got a couple minutes left, so I got a couple more questions for you. Okay, this is a fun one. William Atherton, who played the antagonist Walter Peck, is heckled to this day in public, with fans calling him this less than favorable term of endearment originally uttered by Bill Murray in the film.
Dickless. This man has no dick.
Yes, it's true. So apparently, yeah, he to this day he'll be out, and if a kid that has watched the movie sees him, they'll literally call the poor man dickless.
That is amazing. That is
Out in
absolutely
public.
amazing.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Ray Parker Jr.'s iconic theme song Ghostbusters is known the world over. However, back in 1985, this famous pop star sued Parker Jr., claiming the song was a ripoff of his tune, I Want a New Drug.
That is the guy that sings Power of Love, Huey Lewis.
Yes,
Huey Lewis.
you got it. All
Yep.
right. That's it. I do have a couple more, but yeah, time's running out. But dude, you got pretty much all of them right. Round of applause.
Except Flubber. And I could have got Onion Head. I just did that for Sea Lunch, so I hope he listens. And
That's what
knows
we're
that.
that's what we're gonna use. All right. So I got less than a minute left. It's gonna kick us off. I might not be able to say a proper goodbye, but Will, seriously, man, I love your stuff. I'm so happy that we've become friends, and you are welcome back anytime. And let's continue to do this as much as we can.
That sounds good. Yeah, I'm excited for part 2.
Yes,
Will MF and West part 2.
that's right, man. All right, brother. Well, have a great night. Thanks for taking the time, and I'll talk to you soon, man.
All right, man. I'll see you.
All right, later.
Goodbye.
Here we are, my friends. We are at the end of another episode of the Loud Love Podcast. This was episode 10 with Will motherfucking West of Paperback Tragedy. You can find Will personally over on Instagram and other social media platforms at XX Will West XX. So that's at XX Will West XX. And then if you want to follow Paperback Tragedy, you can also find them as well at paperback_tragedy. And that's on Instagram. I'm pretty sure it's the same over on Facebook. Go check them out. Go give them a listen. I had such a great time with that Ghostbusters trivia, by the way. I've actually gotten to meet so many people who are as equally into Ghostbusters as I am over the last few years. Not being alone as a ghost head is very nice because I spent so many years alone in that crazy hobby. But yeah, it's cool to have a guy like Will to bounce our craziness off of. So one of the things I had mentioned, I wanted this to be a regular thing, weekly, bi-weekly, whatever it was. But here we are, like 2-3 months later with episode 10. The original episode 10 was supposed to be an episode with my good friend Dwayne of the Dead. But as you can see, if you're watching this, hi, how's it going? You guys really like the video aspect of the podcast. And I wanted to be able to deliver that because, I mean, truth be told, I got to reach like 2/3 more people just by offering video. So when I released episode 9 with Reno Ave with Rob and Britt, it was a great indicator to say, yes, this is the way to go moving forward. So chronologically, Dwayne was next up. The only trick was we didn't capture any video for Dwayne's conversation. So I had this grand idea to like animate's maybe the wrong word. I don't know, like compile like some kind of weird puppetry to take over as Dwayne as he was speaking on his end of the conversation. And in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, I could do this. It'll be no problem, and we'll get it out. And it wound up turning into this gigantic project, and I'm still not finished. Just to make it into something that's not only entertaining, but also just it doesn't look like crap. Hopefully, Dwayne, your episode will be episode 11. If not, it's definitely going to come out within the next couple. But like I mentioned as well, a lot of these conversations that I've already had, there's 15 of them in the can. Just going down the line, what you have to look forward to is just an all-star lineup of people. Everyone from Tom Hall. He is a photographer and artist in his own right. He fronts the project by Torchlight. I've got Mike Lehmans from Horrorwood Ending coming up. Let's see. Ginger Val and Danimal from The Lasketeers, or Alex Cross. Man, who else we have? I've got Aaron from Dead End Lane, Dags, Paul Neal, Rick Gert. So many people. That's just the kind of tip of the iceberg. So, again, that's all coming up. So please hit that like and subscribe button. Eh? Yeah? Can you do that for me? No, seriously, if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe to the channel. If you're on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever else you're listening to this, be sure to subscribe to get the next episode when it comes out. Hopefully, very soon. Maybe within a week. Maybe within two. Maybe 2 months from now. Who knows? But I promise it's going to come out as soon as humanly possible, or as soon as Vinny possible. How about that? Anyway, so that's it. That'll do it. Episode 10. Go do all the things. Find me on social media at loudlove.music. Go find my music. I put a lot of work into it. I work hard on it, and I like doing it a lot, and it's a lot of fun. And I would really appreciate if you would listen to my music, please. Yes. You don't even have to buy it. I'm not telling you to go and, download the record on Bandcamp. It would help if you did, right? Or if you bought a CD. I even have some vinyl. You don't have to buy those things. You can if you want, but you don't have to. Just listen, right? Tell me what you think. Engage in the stories, I like telling stories. You like listening to them? Maybe? I don't know. It's getting really weird and creepy now. It's so late, and I'm so fucking tired. And like I mentioned, if I didn't mention, I meant to mention, I'm on a 9-day, I'm in the middle of a 9-day stretch straight of working. And I'm so tired. And it's so late. But this is the only time I get to talk to you guys and put this damn podcast together. So, without further ado, I bid you a good night and a farewell until next time. This is Vinny Marone of Loud Love Podcast.
Rapid Penguin Productions!